After gaining self-awareness, I realized I was merely a disposable background character, the Cannon-Fodder villain, in a polyamorous BL novel. My role? A convenient fake boyfriend used by the universally adored protagonist, Phillip Hobbes, to fend off his obsessive admirers. But I, hopelessly deluded, mistook our relationship for true love and threw myself into it, heart and soul. Eventually, Phillip grew tired of me and wanted to break up. I, embarrassingly persistent, clung to him like a fool, committing one cringeworthy mistake after another. The result? His suitors taught me a brutal lesson. My family went bankrupt. I was left ruined and humiliated. Terrified by the bleak fate that awaited me, I swore to change the trajectory of my life. From then on, I acted carefully and obediently, playing the part of a dutiful tool boyfriend. I just wanted to get through the plot quietly and have Phillip break up with me as soon as possible. But I waited and waited. The breakup never came. Instead, the usually aloof and distant Phillip looked at me with smoldering warmth, the frost in his eyes melting as he pulled me into a tight embrace. "Baby," he whispered, his voice low and intense. "Isn't it time we got married?" Welcome to He History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. I used to wonder how someone like me could land such a flawless boyfriend. Rich, tall, good-looking, with a figure straight out of a fashion magazine. Turns out it was all in my head. He never really wanted to be in a relationship. That was when I woke up, literally. I realized I was living inside a chaotic, over-the-top polyamorous BL novel, and my so-called boyfriend, Phillip Hobbes, was none other than the beloved main character. The entire story revolved around him and the messy emotional entanglements with his many suitors. Reginald Daniel, the ruthless business tycoon. John Lambert, the flirtatious race car driver. Herbert Mollison, the deceptively gentle but deeply scheming doctor. They all adored him, treated him like a sacred, untouchable existence. And he was worthy of the obsession. He came from an elite family, with looks that could stop time. Ivory skin, sharp jawline, sculpted nose, sinful lips. His profile was like a glacier carved by a master. His eyes were pale, glassy like frosted crystal, with a teardrop mole beneath one. His figure? Lean, straight-backed, and distant. He looked like something you'd admire from afar, but never dare touch. The kind of cold beauty you could only worship. And yet, somehow, the unlucky extra was chosen. Phillip invited me to be his boyfriend. I was dumbstruck by his beauty and said yes on the spot, heart pounding. I even felt smug. Until I found out that I was destined to fall hard for him, cling desperately after he dumped me, act like a complete idiot, and then be crushed, socially, emotionally, and financially, by his admirers. That's when the panic kicked in. With that many powerful people thirsting after him, I couldn't afford to stay in the spotlight. Truth be told, someone like me shouldn't have even been in their world. I was what people jokingly called hillbilly rich. My parents owned a modest little business. After hitting a few lucky breaks, we upgraded to a comfortable life. We weren't elite, but we were content. My parents worked hard, and I finally got the chance to pursue a career I actually liked. Then I met Brock Vibart, a rich, naive guy with the emotional intelligence of a potato, and we hit it off right away. Through him, I ended up at a private gathering where I met them. All the big shots from the novel. Before heading out, my dad tried to lend me a massive gold chain for status. I stuffed it in my pocket as decoration, too flashy for me. Surrounded by sleek suits, expensive colognes, and intimidating auras, I stood out like a sore thumb with my ridiculous red hair. Luckily, Brock stayed by my side, whispering introductions. He pointed discreetly to the shadowy figure in the corner. That's Phillip Hobbes. Just got back from abroad. Took over the Hobbes business empire. Cold and ruthless, they say. I barely heard the rest. My eyes were glued to that godlike face with the icy tear mole. Soon, someone suggested a party game. Naively, I joined in, grinning like an idiot. When Phillip got a penalty and had to choose between me and Reginald Daniel to complete it with, I was secretly hoping he'd pick me. And he did. His eyes lingered on us both before landing on me. His head tilted ever so slightly. Come, he said in a voice that could melt glaciers. My brain short-circuited. Okay, I managed. The penalty? Share a pocky stick without using hands. If the remaining piece was longer than 1 centimeter, we failed. Philip grabbed one end, leaning in. I bit the other. We slowly moved closer. I could smell the faint scent on his clothes, cool, understated. His lips were close, his eyes piercing and unreadable. My heart skipped a dozen beats. I froze before we could touch. He didn't. He calmly bit the cookie and I followed. The crowd erupted in cheers. That night I felt like maybe that was it. Maybe I'd just be a footnote in his life. In hindsight, no wonder my back felt prickly that entire night. I was being stared down by every other male lead in the novel. The next time I saw Philip was at Brooke's birthday party. What I didn't know was that someone had drugged him. He accidentally stumbled into my room, and someone locked the door from the outside. His sharp, cold eyes were tinged red, his breath shaky, his self-control clearly crumbling. I was tipsy too. When he kissed me, I stupidly kissed back. One thing led to another, and we ended up tangled in the sheets. Morning came. I woke up with my back against a wall of muscle and his hand around my waist. My brain froze. But I was a virgin. Well, not anymore. And while the experience was surprising in a good way, Philip wasn't careless. He asked for consent, took his time, checked in with me when it got too intense, held me after and even cleaned me up himself. I tried to slip out quietly, picked up my clothes, scattered all over the floor. Then came the voice. You okay? I turned. Philip had propped himself up in bed, the covers low around his hips. His eyes weren't cold anymore, just searching. Are you hurting anywhere? He asked. I'm fine, I muttered, looking away. This was mortifying. And then I realized he tore my underwear. I was still staring at the ruined fabric when he said, Wait here. I'll have my assistant bring you new clothes. Okay. I crawled back into bed, hiding under the covers like an idiot. Later, when we were both dressed, I was ready to pretend none of it happened. But he stopped me. Dominic Raines, he said. Let's date. His voice was calm. His eyes, dead serious. When he first asked me out, my immediate reaction was pure joy. I said yes without thinking twice, shamelessly if I'm being honest. I mean, just look at him. That face. That body. That hardware. Dating a man like Phillip Hobbes could never be a loss, right? So we officially became a couple. It's been a week since that day. I lay in bed now, staring at the ceiling in a daze. Why did I have to awaken now of all times? I already started dating him. I couldn't just dump him out of nowhere. That'd be way too suspicious. Also, let's talk about the drug from that night. Apparently, in BL novels, there's no difference between a top version or bottom version aphrodisiac. Phillip Hobbes, who's supposed to be the show, was rock solid and very capable. And he didn't exactly have the delicate features I'd come to expect from a classic uke. He was intimidating, terrifying even. I had no idea who he'd end up with in the original story. The novel cut me off long before the ending. I died somewhere in the middle. Thankfully, I hadn't racked up too much hatred yet. There was still time to rewrite my ending. Thinking back, I only interacted with the other love interests once. That night of the party challenge, after I left the bathroom, I saw Reginald Daniel leaning casually against the wall. When I walked by, he glanced sideways and asked lazily, "Who are you?" I blinked and realized, whoa, it's Mr. Daniel in the flesh. I assumed he was drawn to my unique aura. So I stood up straight and introduced myself with full sincerity. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Daniel. I'm Dominic Raines. My dad is Tom Raines. My mom is Leslie Close. Our family business is called." I gave him the full report, down to our company's services. He stared at me for a long moment before replying with a dry, "Oh." Then I shamelessly asked for his business card. And, surprisingly, he gave me one. I thanked him, tucked it away, and walked off feeling victorious. Looking back, I don't think I said anything offensive. Right? Still, I tossed and turned that night, stressed. Opening WhatsApp, I checked my chat with Philip. The last message was half an hour ago. A simple, "Good night." Scrolling up, it was clear that I always initiated the conversations. He always replied, yes, but never started anything. So yeah, definitely not interested. I buried my face in the pillow and pouted. Jerk. So the next day, I didn't text him first. We'd only met once since becoming a couple. I had asked him to dinner. Well, technically he paid. I hadn't even picked a place. Once I got in the car, I asked where we should eat. He casually suggested a 5-star restaurant, something fancy beyond anything I'd ever had. He seemed perfectly at ease, like it was nothing. I resisted the urge to text him all day. But when I got home that evening, a message popped up on my screen. Were you busy today? I blinked in surprise. Well, whatever. I wasn't going to get all excited again. I replied with a stone cold, not really. He answered quickly, same. I wrote th, and then, silence. 2 minutes passed. No reply. I slipped my phone into my pocket and headed upstairs to shower. The ringtone startled me. Phillip Hobbes was calling. Hello. I picked up. What are you doing? His deep, velvety voice ran right through my ear canal and melted my spine. Nothing, I said honestly. About to take a shower. The pause. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? It was the weekend. I thought about it. Yeah, I think so. I'll pick you up. Let's have dinner. It didn't sound like a request. More like a decision. And I, once again, foolishly agreed. Phillip Hobbes still looked ridiculously handsome. I jogged over to him. Sorry to keep you waiting. He shook his head lightly. Not at all. Once we were buckled in, he asked, What do you want to eat, Dom? Hearing him say my name like that made my cheeks flush. I stumbled over my words. A hot pot? I regretted it immediately. Would a guy like him even eat hot pot? But he nodded without hesitation. Sure. Not only did Phillip Hobbes eat hot pot, he even made a special dipping sauce for me. I instantly fell in love with it. It was spicy, too spicy for my weak tolerance, but I couldn't stop myself. I kept eating, nose running and eyes tearing up. Phillip watched me with a mix of amusement and concern, then ordered a glass of milk. Hold it in your mouth before swallowing. It helps with the spice. Thanks, I mumbled. The milk did help. I looked up with sparkling eyes. It actually works. Thanks. He simply said, no problem. Through the steam rising from the pot, I caught a glimpse of his Adam's apple moving ever so slightly. After dinner, instead of taking me home right away, he suggested a walk. The breeze by the lake was cool and refreshing. We walked in silence side by side. Then I felt his hand slide into mine. Phillip held it so naturally, like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. His hand was larger than mine, dry and warm. The same hands that had, please stop. I bit back the thought. Still on impulse, I asked, Phillip Hobbes, am I your type? He stopped and turned to look at me. Yes, he said. I blinked. Well, at least he had the decency to lie convincingly. Dating someone this gorgeous meant just seeing his face could lift my mood. I thought about it seriously. If Phillip Hobbes was just using me as a placeholder, then I could enjoy his looks guilt-free. Fair trade, right? I made a decision. While we were still dating, I'd steal as many hugs, cuddles, and kisses as possible. Of course, I wasn't going to let him pay for everything. I started tracking our expenses in WhatsApp's chat with myself. Every dinner, every little thing, I made sure it was recorded. When we broke up, I'd go full AA with him. Just in case he came after me. Oddly enough, he started messaging more. He'd ask about my day, share random details about his own life. Maybe I was still useful in his eyes. We were seeing each other pretty often, every 2 or 3 days at least. He even came to pick me up from work or home, even though I had my own car. Somehow, we got more comfortable. Why are you dressed so lightly? It was sunny this morning, I pouted, burying myself in his coat. How was I supposed to know it'd get so cold? Ever since our first hug wasn't rejected, I'd gotten bolder. Now, I could hug him anytime I wanted. He wore a button-down under a wool coat, and I slipped my arms inside, wrapped them around his waist, and nuzzled into his chest. My cheek rubbed unconsciously against his chest. So smooth, so firm, If life handed me tofu like this, of course I'd devour it. I felt Phillip Hobbes stiffen for a second before he wrapped an arm around me, pulling me into the warmth of his coat. His voice was low. Wearing my coat? If I wear it, you'll be cold. I shook my head. Besides, it's too big on me. Doesn't fit right. We had planned to head home so I could grab a jacket, but since the mall was closer, Phillip brought me straight there and bought me several. All paid by him. My protests were useless, so while he was at the register, I quietly logged the prices into my phone. Then we wandered the mall like any normal couple, holding hands, sipping on bubble tea. As he unwrapped my straw, I couldn't stop staring at his lowered lashes and serene expression. My heart itched. Phil. He looked up at me, eyes asking what I wanted. I braved it. Can I kiss you? His gaze dimmed, flickering with something I couldn't quite read. A moment passed. Then a soft, I glanced around. This corner of the mall was relatively empty. Tugging at his sleeve, I whispered, "You'll have to lean down a bit. I can't reach." Phillip bent slightly. Face burning, I tilted up and planted a kiss on the edge of his cool lips. Just a quick peck. I was about to pull away when his hand suddenly cupped the back of my neck, holding me in place. He kissed me hard. A deep, searing kiss. His tongue slipping in and taking everything. Urgent, hungry. When he finally let go, he lingered a second longer, gently biting my bottom lip before pulling back. His hand still rested on my nape, thumb grazing softly. "Next time," he murmured, breath warm against my face, "kiss me like that." Clutching at his shirt, I blinked, breathless. Okay. Phillip wanted to take me on a getaway trip to a private resort his company owned. It wasn't open to the public yet, filled with exclusive attractions. I was intrigued. Of course I said yes. We weren't going alone. Some of his friends were coming too. I had mentally prepared to run into the other male leads from the novel. I just hadn't expected it to happen so soon. And all of them. In one place. They were longtime friends of the Hobbes family, and had hung out with Phillip before he went abroad, so their presence made sense. But it made me nervous. I didn't dare get too close to Phillip, afraid even a hug might get me targeted. Sensing my anxiety and growing distance, Phillip reached out and took my hand. "Dom," he said, voice gentle but firm. "Not used to this? We can split off from the group later if you want." I squeezed his hand, quickly shaking my head. No. It's more fun together." Didn't want to come off like I was luring him away. That would only earn me more enemies. "Okay." He leaned in and kissed my cheek. "Don't worry. They all know you're my boyfriend. If anything makes you uncomfortable, tell me." I nodded like a good student. "Got it." The male leads greeted me with indifference, polite but distant. Clearly, they didn't see me as a threat. The resort had a custom-designed racetrack shaped around the terrain. Naturally, John Lambert, resident race car driver, was thrilled. "Phil," he grinned, cocky and challenging, "care for a little race?" Phillip's pale eyes lifted. "Sure." John's grin widened. "Let's make it interesting. 2 suitors. I'll bring someone. You bring your little boyfriend." Phillip's brow twitched. "Barely." Then he turned to me. "Dom, want to ride with me?" I felt John's gaze land on me like a feather. Reginald Daniel and Herbert Mollison were watching too. I nodded. "Sure. It's just a car ride. What's the worst that could happen?" Wrong. Engines roared to life, shattering the mountain's calm. Tires screeched around curves as Phillip handled the car like a pro. I held on tight. The speed that earns? It was too much. Midway through a sharp drift, I suddenly felt sick. Ugh. Phillip's grip on the wheel tightened. He slowed immediately. Another car whooshed past us. I clutched the seatbelt, stomach in knots. He pulled over, hazard lights blinking, and circled around to help me out of the passenger seat. "Dom?" he asked, concerned. "You're not feeling well?" His voice was full of regret. "I'm sorry. This is my fault." I crouched down, dry heaving. Nothing came out. My head spun. Phillip placed a large, steady hand on my back, rubbing circles. "Better now." Eventually, I caught my breath and looked up. Only then did it hit me. "Wait, did you lose?" Philip chuckled faintly. Guess so. Seeing that I'd recovered a little, he exhaled in relief and pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to push you that hard. Leaning against his chest, I mumbled, It's fine. Not your fault. Maybe the speed was too much. I didn't know I'd get carsick. I even ruined your race. Screw the race. You're what matters. He checked my forehead, then grabbed a water bottle from the car. After I sipped and rested a bit, he drove us back at a turtle pace of 30 miles per hour. John was waiting when we returned. Well, he smirked. Looks like I won. Why so late? Philip didn't answer, brushing past him and escorting me to the lounge. Wait here, okay? He handed me a warm drink, patted my head. I'll find you some medicine. I cupped the glass in both hands. Thanks, Phil. He bent down and kissed my cheek before heading out. I leaned into the sofa, dazed. That's when John Lambert strolled in. He looked at me, contempt plain on his face. I know Phil. He's not the type to fall easily, he said coldly. You really think someone like you, a nobody, can keep him for long? I tightened my grip on the cup. Didn't bother arguing. After a pause, I blinked innocently. Sorry, what was that? I didn't catch it. Could you repeat yourself? John stared, scowled, then muttered, pale as a ghost. He turned and walked out, his irritation practically bouncing off his back. I still wasn't feeling great. Later that evening, with Philip watching closely, I took my medicine and went to bed early. We shared a room. Only one bed. He slid in beside me, pulling me into his arms. Buried in his clean, masculine scent, I closed my eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. Eventually, I opened my eyes and stared into the dark. Philip noticed and glanced down. I tilted my head up and blinked. Can't sleep. I want my phone. He sighed softly. Still dizzy? No. Still feel sick? Nope. Philip sat up and turned on the light. So I sat up with him. The two of us leaned back against the headboard, me nestled close to him as I picked up my phone. I sent the best photo from today to the family group chat for my parents to see, then started mindlessly scrolling through low-calorie, silly short videos. A random absurd clip made me burst out laughing, nearly sliding off the bed. My elbow, in its carefree flail, landed right on a very certain part of Phillip Hobbes. Philip's breath hitched. The air froze. A beat later, he flipped over and pinned me beneath him. His voice, rough and low, scraped at my nerves. It's up. What are you going to do about it, Dom? After 2 months, here I was face to face with it again, still impressive as ever. I was still technically recovering, so I wasn't in the mood to go all the way. But let's just say, my hand and thighs bore the brunt of the situation. It went on forever. My muscles ached by the time we fell asleep tangled in each other's arms. The next day, I was back to full power. Because the main activity was my absolute favorite, hot springs. At the resort, wherever Philip went, I trailed behind. Even if I fell behind by a few steps, he'd slow down to wait for me. Of course, we soaked in the springs together. At first, we joined the large communal pools nestled in the forest. We found an empty spot, slipped off our robes, and eased into the water. The heat wrapped around my skin instantly, so good I could melt. Steam wafted around us, and I rested against the edge, eyes half closed in bliss. My skin turned faintly pink under the gentle steam. Then I felt Philip's hand on my arm. Dom, he said, let's go to a private spring. I blinked, confused. We had barely been soaking for a minute. I turned to face him, and finally noticed the looks from not so far away. The other male leads. They were watching. A little too intently. Crap. I nearly forgot. Those bastards were all eyeing Philip like he was a prize pastry. I nodded immediately. Yeah, sure. As we got out, Philip swiftly grabbed his robe and draped it around me before I could react. Wasn't that backward? Shouldn't he worry about himself first? So I grabbed his robe, tiptoed up, and awkwardly helped him into it. Here, you wear yours too, I muttered. Wrap it up tight. You're my boyfriend now. Just as we were about to leave, Reginald Daniel called out, Phil? You just got here, why leave so soon? Phillip turned his head slightly. Not convenient. You guys enjoy. We're heading off. The private hot spring was just as nice, peaceful, spacious, secluded. I splashed around like a child, ripples brushing against Philip's skin. Behind me, water sloshed. Before I could turn, his arms circled me from behind, fingertips grazing my waist. It tickled. I squirmed. Dom. His voice murmured against my ear. He caught my wrists, pulling me close. In the warm water, our bodies met, every touch too hot, too intimate. He kissed me in the water, and then again on the edge of the pool, and again as we tumbled onto the bed. I want you, he panted, voice hoarse. Dom, I want all of you. His lips brushed against my skin like he meant to worship every inch. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. My head spun with heat, and I had one very clear thought. If not now, then when? I'd never get a chance like this again, not after we broke up. Men like Phillip Hobbes don't stick around. So I hooked my arms around his neck and whispered, We'd already stripped down to just our underwear getting out of the spring, so, less work. Things got steamy fast. Knock knock. I froze. Philip groaned, a deep sound in his chest. The knocking continued. Phil, came Herbert Mollison's voice from outside. We're heading to the restaurant. Want to come? Philip kissed my forehead and exhaled, clearly annoyed. No. I bit down on my wrist to keep any embarrassing noises from slipping out. The room was soundproof enough. Out. Still, I was mortified. Herbert wasn't done. Sure you don't want to join? If we eat everything, you and your little boyfriend might go hungry. Philip's voice rose, flat out impatient. I said no. Don't bother me. Silence. Finally, footsteps receded. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. Philip scooped me up into his arms. He leaned in, laughing softly against my ear, voice filthy and full of heat. Baby, just now, so good? I clapped a hand over his mouth. Stop talking. After a long while, I whimpered, How are you still going? Again? We did it so many times yesterday. Of course, I couldn't keep my relationship a secret from my parents. They'd seen Philip picking me up way too many times by now. But we'd never officially been introduced. I'd come out to my parents back when I first figured out I liked guys. They took it well, no drama, no disappointment. Dom, they'd said, boy or girl, as long as you're happy and true to yourself, that's all that matters. Best parents ever. Dom, Mom smiled one day, you've been dating for months. When are you bringing him over for dinner? Dad chimed in, yeah, lately you're always smiling at your phone. You barely snuggle with us anymore. We've got to meet the guy who stole our baby away. My heart stuttered. Wait, they were right. It has been months. Why hadn't Philip broken up with me yet? We were still super clingy. Still acting like we were in a honeymoon phase. At this rate, I was falling in way too deep. I slapped my cheeks and gave my parents a sheepish smile. I'll ask him. Surely bringing family into the picture would make Philip realize the situation was getting serious. Maybe it'd finally scare him off. Maybe this would be my exit. I approached the topic nervously, half expecting him to say no, half hoping he wouldn't. Phil, my parents invited you over for dinner this Saturday. Are you free? I twisted my shirt hem, glancing at him then away. I mean, if it's not convenient, that's okay too. Sure. I'm free. I blinked. You are. I should probably bring a gift, he mused aloud. Wonder what they'd like. Then he leaned in, those glassy eyes locked on me, lips curling into a smile. Dom, want to help me cheat a little? My heart skipped a beat. This man is so unfair. Phillip Hobbes was charm incarnate. At dinner, he got along with my parents effortlessly. Perfect manners. Warm smiles. Zero flaws. My parents were delighted. I could practically see the hearts floating over their heads. After dinner, the three of them kept chatting, digging up all my embarrassing childhood stories. Photos included. When Philip asked to take pictures for memories, my parents were thrilled. I, however, turned red and lunged to grab the album. In my haste, I tripped over the coffee table, but Philip caught me before I could hit the floor. Later, I walked him to the door. He stood a few meters away, tall and quiet, shadow stretching long under the streetlight. I couldn't help it. I ran over and hugged him. Phillip hugged me back without hesitation. "Good night," I whispered. "Don't forget to miss me tonight, okay?" He chuckled, soft and affectionate. "Of course. Every second we're apart, I'll be thinking of you." God, the sweet talk this man spouts. I rolled my eyes inwardly, but couldn't stop myself from smiling. "Dom, my mother passed away a long time ago. She's buried overseas," Phillip said quietly, his fingers combing through my hair. "And my father, someone like him doesn't deserve to meet you." I didn't know much about his family, so I was caught off guard. I leaned against his chest and murmured, "It's okay." We shared a slow, lingering kiss beneath the quiet sky before parting for the night. Lying in bed, I typed the last entry of the day into my WhatsApp transfer chat, logging the price of the final gift Phillip had brought for my parents. Thoughtful, not expensive, but full of sincerity. They loved every bit of it. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, uncertain of what he was thinking. Half asleep, I typed out 2 lines. "Why haven't you broken up with me yet? If this keeps going, I don't think I'll be able to let go." We'd planned a ski trip together. Before leaving, Phillip even took me to a high-end shop to custom-fit my gear, snowboard, boots, the works. When I saw our matching ski suits, I blinked. "Wait, is this couple gear?" Phillip didn't even hesitate. "Yeah." We stared at each other, then burst out laughing. As I put on my snow boots, Phillip knelt down and began tying the straps for me. I dazedly stared at the swirl of hair on his head, then glanced up, and spotted Reginald Daniel, standing about 10 meters away, watching us. What was he doing here? My brows twitched. I looked away quickly, pretending I hadn't seen him. Thinking back, I hadn't seen any of the male leads since the resort. Ever since then, all my meetups with Phillip had been one-on-one. Even this ski trip. Coincidence? "All set," Phillip said, interrupting my thoughts. He stood and offered me his hand. "Ready?" "I think I just saw a friend of yours," I said, scratching his palm lightly with my fingertip. "What a coincidence." Phillip paused. A shadow passed through his eyes before his expression smoothed over. "Is that so? Ignore him." I nodded, gripping his hand tighter. Deep down, I was reeling. Throughout our relationship, Phillip had never once shown romantic interest toward any of the other male leads. Would he really end up with them in the end? I wasn't great at skiing. I'd done it before, but I was still a beginner. Phillip, of course, looked like a pro. Yet he patiently stuck by me on the beginner slopes. He taught me the moves step by step, hands-on, patient. Eventually, I got the hang of it and started having fun. A little too much fun. I kept falling. Phillip helped me up for the umpteenth time, then said, "Dom, wait here a minute. I'll be right back." I figured he wanted to hit a more advanced trail and nodded. "Okay." As soon as he left, I replayed some of his tips in my head and was about to give it another go, when a voice called out from behind. "Dominic Raines?" I turned. "John Lambert." "That's you, right?" He grinned, all swagger and sarcasm. "Didn't think you had it in you." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He sneered. "I mean you're an idiot." My jaw clenched. "That's rude." I turned away, not wanting to engage. But 2 minutes later, he followed me. "You ski like a newborn deer," he smirked. "Call me Big Bro, and I'll teach you." I was about to retort when another voice, sharp as ice, cut through the air. "John Lambert. Who the hell do you think you're harassing?" Phillip was back, gloves in one hand, a thunderstorm in his voice. John shrugged, trying to play it cool. "Relax, Phil. I was just joking. Get lost." Phillip's eyes were icy, voice even colder. "I warned you already. Didn't think I was serious?" John's smirk vanished. His tone darkened. "You're really doing this?" Phillip didn't flinch. He pulled me close and shoved something into my hands, protective turtle pads for falls. "You see someone like that again," he said flatly, "just cuss him out. I've got you." "Okay." I blinked. Then I noticed Herbert Mollison was here too. All 3 male leads, together. And just like that, our sweet date was officially ruined. I didn't feel like skiing anymore. So I asked Phillip to go try an advanced run while I filmed him from below. He looked amazing. Can't wait to show off those videos to my parents. After skiing, I headed to the restroom and walked straight into a storm. There they were, Reginald, Herbert, John, and Phillip. Herbert's voice rang out. So you're willing to burn bridges with all of us, over him? I froze behind the wall, heart pounding. Phillip laughed coldly. I'm just finally seeing you all for what you really are. Reginald frowned. Phil, calm down. I'll admit, Dominic Raines might not be out to use you. But he's not right for you. Phillip turned on him, sharp-eyed. And who made you judge and jury on that? John stepped forward, trying to mediate. We're brothers, Phil. Brother, my ass, Phillip snapped. Don't disgust me. Or do you all really think I don't know what happened the night I was drugged? Their faces faltered. Reginald recovered first. Okay, but you ending up in Dominic's room really was an accident. We can explain. Shut up. Phillip's voice was laced with venom. I told you, stay the hell out of my life. And the Hobbes family wants nothing to do with your trash. Herbert's fist clenched. So that's it? You're really doing this? Phil, don't tell me you've actually fallen for him. I have. Phillip didn't hesitate. I've loved him from the beginning. Being with him wasn't a whim. It's never been a joke. Surprised? He sneered. What, human feelings too complicated for you animals? They stared at him, stunned and visibly offended. Phillip turned and walked off. John called out behind him, what about all these years of friendship? Without looking back, Phillip shot over his shoulder, all that proves is you're good actors. I clutched my chest, my heart pounding like crazy. He really told them off. He said he loved me. Was this the part where we don't break up? Later, when I met back up with Phillip, I couldn't contain the joy inside. To cover up the fact that I'd accidentally eavesdropped, I lied and said I'd gone off to take some pictures of the scenery. Phillip didn't question it. Hungry? Let's grab dinner. Actually, I turned toward the glowing sky. Can we take photos first? The sunset's gorgeous. I want to send some to my parents, and we haven't taken any selfies today. The steel in his gaze melted into warmth. Okay. We'd forgotten the tripod, so I did some awkward arm-stretching selfies, then asked a stranger to snap a few full-body shots. After our couple photos, Phillip even took several of me solo. I posed so much I finally groaned, enough, enough. No more. I plopped down on a rock, exhausted. Phillip's phone buzzed in his hand. He glanced at it. Dom, your mom asked how the trip's going. I rested my chin on my hand. You reply for me, okay? Just tell them it's super nice and so much fun. And send a few of our selfies to the family group chat. Oh, and don't forget the video of you skiing. I meant to send it earlier, I said with a sheepish smile. Totally forgot. Phillip's lips curled into a small smile. Okay. I sat quietly, admiring the view, the way the last light of the sunset lit up the snow, casting everything in a soft, golden glow. Then I realized it had gone unusually quiet. Phillip hadn't spoken in a while. I turned to look at him. He was staring at my phone. His expression was calm, but something dark swirled behind those normally steady eyes, like a storm waiting to break. A chill ran down my spine. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, he looked up and said, Found out you like keeping a little ledger, Dom? My pupils shrank. My brain went blank. But, his tone shifted slightly, did you really have to keep track of everything between us like this? And then there's this line. His voice remained even, but something in it made my skin prickle. Why haven't you broken up with me yet? He looked straight at me. Were you planning to break up with me? I opened my mouth but couldn't get a word out. He lowered his gaze. That usual composed, handsome face was touched by something softer now. Disappointment, maybe. Sadness. Even the teardrop mole beneath his eye looked more melancholic. My heart clenched. I jumped to my feet, rushed over and grabbed his hand. No. I wasn't, I stumbled over my words. Let me explain. Phillip's lashes trembled slightly. He lowered his head, voice soft. I'm listening. He was being so gentle. Such a stark contrast to the man who just told Reginald Daniel to get lost without blinking. We headed to the hotel room Philip had reserved ahead of time. I used the ride to figure out how to explain everything. In the end, I went with the truth. The partial truth. I left out the whole polyamorous novel part. Since earlier, Philip had been in a gloomy mood, his whole presence weighed down like a thundercloud. It made my chest ache just looking at him. So the moment we got inside, I walked over and hugged him. "And my good big brother," I mumbled against his chest, "I wasn't trying to break up with you. At the beginning, I thought you didn't really want something serious. We barely knew each other, and our lives are so different. And that whole you being drugged, it was just an accident. I misread everything. I'm sorry, okay? Are you mad at me?" I looked up at him. He looked back down at me, eyes burning with intensity. "I'm not mad at you, baby." His fingers, cool and gentle, brushed my cheek. "I'm just blaming myself for not making you feel secure." "It's not your fault," I whispered. "You've always been good to me." I had been too deep in my own assumptions. Too convinced by what I thought I knew about the story. "It was all in my head," I admitted. "You're so attractive. So dazzling. I guess I just assumed you'd want someone who's as perfect as you are." "Dom." Philip cupped my face in both hands, voice firm and low. "You are dazzling. You're amazing. Isn't it only natural that I'd fall for you?" My throat tightened. My eyes stung. He wiped away the tears that escaped, then kissed me. Breath stealing. When we finally broke apart, he whispered, "No breakups." His eyes were molten gold now, all the frost gone. Holding me close, he smiled, lips brushing my ear. "Baby, I think we should get married." Okay, maybe a bit too fast. Later that night, after dinner, we were tangled up in bed again. Philip was unusually intense, passionate in a way that had me breathless. Moonlight clung to his shoulders. His chest was damp with sweat. He looked sinfully gorgeous. He leaned in, bit my earlobe gently, and whispered hoarsely, "Dom, call me Big Brother, again?" Tears welled in my eyes as I gasped. "Big Brother, but gentle?" Which, of course, only made him go harder. Our relationship continued sweet and clingy. Without any more interference from those people, it only got better. Eventually, we decided to move in together. Saying goodbye to my parents, though, was dramatic. They turned into full-on theater performers, sobbing and sniffling like I was moving to another planet. "Oh, Dom, will we ever see you again? Dom, how will we survive without our precious baby?" The moment Philip walked in, they dropped the act. Just like that. "Phil's a good man," Dad said seriously. "We trust him." Mom added, "Go on, sweetheart. Don't keep him waiting." Philip took my hand, nodding respectfully. "Uncle Auntie, don't worry, I'll take good care of Dom." Then he looked at me with those blazing eyes. "Baby, I think we should get married." My parents smiled at him like they just handed me off to a prince. "With you around, we can rest easy." We picked the apartment together. A high-rise in the city center, perfect view, ideal location. Not far from either of our offices. We designed everything ourselves. Every corner of the place had a bit of us in it. In the evenings, sunlight slowly disappeared behind the skyline. Sometimes we curled up on the couch with a movie. Sometimes we chopped veggies side by side for hot pot. Sometimes we just lay around talking about our day. All those quiet little moments, floating in golden dusk, pieced together a life that was uniquely ours. And when the last light faded, one by one, the warm lights inside our home flicked on. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.